In this situation, KGPY, I would consider entering a position to go up. 2 minutes, 300 to go up. Now I'll take everything into one area, that is.
A link to all the information is on the YouTube profile.
Aha, that's too sharp. Well, it's close to the opening point, so I won't open a catch-up yet. That is, we have one unupdated minimum, we have a second unupdated minimum, and a third unupdated minimum. That is 3 minimums that were not updated, and from which overall we had an upward movement, right? So an area where there should be a buyer capable of showing at least one candle. Yes, volatility is in its usual style, I understand. So I'll mark this area. All right, it turns out that now the seller emerges as the winner from the sideways movement, and the nearest place where a buyer might appear is here. I have some doubts that they will immediately go here. So, there is a loss of strength from below. The buyer is becoming slightly more present. That is, if the 3 minimums showed no reaction at all, it's quite something. So here 30 seconds, there will be a minus. We'll have to wait a bit, see what happens. If the sellers can still provide resistance, close the candle more solidly, or if we see a retest of this area, then I should see a response from the seller. Then I'll go down. If there is a strong hard buyback now and I see a good buyer, I will open here for an increase. Sometimes it happens that we don't pull back exactly at the minimums, right? We go a little lower because, as I've repeated 100 million times, liquidity doesn't necessarily have to be here. Yes, liquidity can be lower. So now I will think and observe. For this, I need to see closer to the candle's closing. So far, I see a buyer appearing from below. The seller has been pushed higher. The buyer's volume is also increasing and the seller's is decreasing. But let's see how strong it is. I'm not in a hurry and I would like to see closer to the candle's closing. For now, we wait a little. There are 5 seconds left until the end. As a result, we closed all this buyer's purchase in our favor. That is, the candle is red again and divergence does not appear. Let's go. 2 minutes. A follow-up on the downside. According to the cluster, our area of interest is here. The body of the candle closes here. It closes the buyer. This is bad for further downward movement, but the area of interest remained with the buyer. We passed it, closed the candle lower, right? So I perceive this as 50-50. It's a strong fact, but I won't take it based on the cluster. In terms of volume, it turns out that there are more buyers than in the previous candle and fewer sellers. So again, the volume tells you that you can't really go down either, because strength is not shown by volume, strength is not shown by the cluster. But right now, I'm concerned with another question. Why? Being in this area, did I see a buyer here? I saw many unrenewed lows, but the buyer's reaction is this. What was that anyway? Then we go through all these lows and we have a buyer who almost returns the candle to this area. But in the end, we close this buyer and close the candle with a full body. And as a bonus, it turns out that the seller, following this downward trend, exits the sideways movement with a good candle, right? So this is the bonus, probably, generally speaking, I take in my favor against the indicators. Below, in principle, there is the main low that was made on very large volumes. And logically, if they give us such a candle, there is a chance that they will go to this area. And right here, it makes sense I won't open upwards if in this very candle the big buyer was suffocated. What does it mean to suffocate a buyer or a seller? In a downtrend, a buyer appears forming a candle and the seller takes everything. The buyer tried to achieve upwards and the seller takes it to their advantage, right? So first we see a green candle from the buyer, but by the end, at closing, this candle turns into a sell-off and becomes red. That is, the buyer tried to move but was blocked and the candle closed for the seller, right? This is seen during candle formation. So not when I already have a candle like this. This is observed specifically during the formation. Towards the end or middle, resistance appears. For example, sellers counter the buyer's movement and close off this movement. I hope I explained it as clearly as possible because people still come up with questions like, well, you have volumes against you and the cluster is kind of against you. Damn. And yet you still go ahead and open a short position. Guys, I explained this point. So I had to make a decision either to go long or short. Either I listen to the fundamentals, the logic, or I rely on indicators and then get stuck not knowing what to do next. I compared these facts and decided to work it on the downside because overall I see a downward movement here. Here, by the way, we see a cross precisely because we lack volume, a strong negative for the continuation of the movement, right? And in the cluster, there is also no strength below to proceed. That's why crosses are being drawn here now. If the indicators show that you have volume and there is also strength in the cluster for further movement, we wouldn't be drawing crosses. We would be moving lower now. It's a complicated situation. Honestly, I expected a pullback here. I didn't see a pullback here, acted according to the situation and adapted. Late we went. But nevertheless, the movement downward continues. You see, the buyer is growing in each candle while the seller is only falling. Well, damn, this is not funny at all. How? To enter for a decrease immediately. It often happens that we don't reach the area immediately. We pull back earlier. That is, I see counter factors to entering for a decrease. Wait, we might pull back earlier. And to take an entry for an increase from here, considering that it might go lower, and use follow-ups from here, that's a very large distance. Well, somewhere around here, it would still be possible to take before the area. That's why now, yes, I've already worked through the situation, worked it through for the strong side, but not to continue it either way. This is an example where I profited and why I didn't open a deal for a decrease, because this pin bar appeared, counter factors appeared for further entry to continue the movement. That's why I didn't go down. See, here it first went up, only then did it go where I said, and even updated this minimum. So I'll go look further.